It sure is a lot easier to do these retro rants because I get to record them, and if I screw up the audio like this morning over on Prepper Nation, I can redo it. So live, there's always some kind of mistakes that are made or misspeak or something like that. But welcome to Retro Rants. This is just a second channel that we have, under the umbrella of Prepper Nation. If you're brand new, thank you for being here, and thanks to everybody that returning. We just rant over here. We talk about random stuff. Sometimes it's retro stuff. Today, not really retro. It's just going to be a rant. We're going to talk about the rules do not apply to me crowd. And I'm also going to, I'll get into a little bit of YouTubey stuff as well. But we'll get to that toward the end of the video. So stick around if you want to know about that. So the rules do not apply to me. And y'all feel free to add anything in the comment section because I know I ain't covered all these people, right? No specific order here. I mean, people are dumb. People are dumb. They feel entitled. They feel privileged. Sometimes, right? The people that take up two spots when they're parking their car. I see this quite often, and maybe I shouldn't feel this way, but if it was a Lambo with scissor doors, if it's a car I can never afford that I've never seen before, take up two spots. I'm cool with that as long as you're cool with me taking a photo of it or something like that. Something interesting that's going to make me turn my head and be like, wow, you know, I would almost be okay with that. And again, maybe that's wrong on me. But more times than not, it's a 1990s Honda Civic, and these people have, a set of $5 or $500 beater wheels on it, and they think it's something special, and they just don't want it dinged up, and so they're going to take up two parking spots. These people kind of annoy me just a little bit. Like, bro, your vehicle's not that interesting. I'm glad you're proud of it. I would like everybody to be proud of the vehicle they're in, but the lines are on the parking lot for a reason. You know what I'm saying? We've all encountered this. So people that bring 50 items to the 10 items or less checkout, what are you thinking? Like, you're just testing the waters at this point. I know you went through school enough to where you can learn. They don't teach much reading, writing, arithmetic anymore in schools, but I know that you know how to count to 10. And I know that you have exceeded the limit. I know that you know you've exceeded the limit. You're just testing the waters to see if the cashier is going to say anything to you at some point. And usually they don't because they don't want that customer interaction, right? Driving on the interstate shoulder when traffic is backed up. Who are you? Who does this? I had a friend, I have not seen this guy forever. So I used to work security, and we would get trucks in, and his name was Mark. He was from New Jersey. I do remember that much, and I love talking to this guy. But one night he said there was on the turnpike there was a huge backup, and people were just on the shoulders zooming by, and he pulled his truck into the shoulder and just parked it there. And all of these cars were like packing up behind him. And he said when the state troopers finally got there, they thanked him and told him he could go. And they just started handing out tickets like, you're n- everybody has a life. Everybody has somewhere they need to be. You know, why are you so privileged that you just feel like you can do this? I don't understand. Make it make sense. Parking in the fire lane. Okay, this is acceptable if you're loading up a huge TV, you're loading up a grill, son, you got a bunch of stuff at Lowe's maybe, construction wise, you're putting in the back of a truck. I'm not talking about those folks. I've done that. Had to do it, yeah, not recently, several months back with a water heater, okay? I get that. I'm talking about the people that will pull up at a Walmart Supercenter, and their wife is 550 pounds, and she just doesn't like to walk. And so this individual drops her off at the front door so she can go in and get her soft drinks or whatever, Cheetos, and they just sit there in the fire lane. They turn the car completely off, and they're just sitting around like, man, look at these losers parking in actual parking spaces and having to walk 20 feet. Let your wife off at the front door. Let her find her way into the establishment and go and park somewhere. Like the rest of us peons have to do it. I don't get it. I don't get smoking at the gas pumps. I don't know how low of an intelligence level you have to have, but I see it constantly. See this constantly, man. People flicking cigarettes out. I've seen them smoking while they're on their cell phones and pumping gas. I'm like, fool, there's a reason these signs exist all over the gas pumps. What are you doing right now? But again, the rules don't apply to these individuals. They walk a higher path, apparently. They can stand out there and smoke a Marlboro Red while they're pumping gas here in Joe's America. And shopping carts, we got to talk about it. These people that leave shopping carts or buggies, some people around here call them buggies, just randomly in the parking lot. I have witnessed people do this, and they will be parked like 2 spaces away. Just take the janky cart up there. What makes you better than anybody else? Why do you have to make somebody's job twice as hard because you're freaking lazy and entitled? It is what it is. But then you get into other dumb people, right? Yeah, I got a whole list here, right? Um, my biggest pet peeve and the number one way to get me to say potty mouth words in the car, it's usually due to road rage, and it's usually due to me going down the highway, doing 55, because they're 55 around here, having someone pull right out in front of me and then go 20 miles an hour. Like, bro, you could have waited 2 seconds, let me go, and then pulled out and been driving Miss Daisy 20 miles an hour. But now I've got to shave half of my brake pads off, almost come to a complete stop, so you can get your AMC Gremlin out into the road. Why? I will never understand this. Why? It's like a challenge for these people. We talked about this, I think, earlier this week, being distracted when you're at a red light and it turns green and you're on your cell phone. This shouldn't happen, ever. You know what I mean? But it happens all the time. Waiting 10 minutes or so for a parking space at a strip mall. All right, people can't turn, they can't. You're blocking the whole thing because you're waiting. You saw somebody get in a car, you assume they're getting ready to leave. And this may sound evil on my part, but a lot of times when this happens, I will turn my car on and literally sit there and just jam out to music, turn the AC on, and I'll wait for these losers to go on somewhere. Because they're holding everybody else up again because they don't want to walk 10 extra feet. Parking space is right down here. But no, they got to have one that's 10 feet closer. And they're going to hold everybody up for this. People who are clueless at 4-way stops. You would think that we are trying to solve a Rubik's Cube when you pull up to a 4-way stop. The concept of right of way escapes people. And nobody knows what to do. Everybody's doing this at the same time. Like, learn the rules or get off the road. This is not complicated stuff, but I see it. I see it often. Overusing, and this coming from me. I say son a lot. I've gotten in a bad habit of saying bro quite a bit because I have a friend named Curtis who says it a lot. People that say like way too much. Way too much. It irritates me. I don't care. People leave comments all the time and they're like in all caps when they're mad at me. Son, this doesn't bother me. I say it 1,000 times a day. I do. Bro, I say it a lot. But people that talk like they are from Beverly Hills 90210, I don't get it. It's a different culture or something. I don't know. The MTV lingo. Um, Complaining about a slow service, slow service, especially, I mean, sometimes in retail, but usually it's in fast food. And somebody's been waiting on their meal for 5 minutes, and they're up there at the counter, and they're like this, and you'll hear them. They're talking out loud like a coward would do, so people can hear them, but they can avoid that confrontation, right? It shouldn't take 5 minutes for this. I just ordered 2 combos, and there's a sign on the counter that says now hiring. Usually, when people do this and I'm in line with them, I look at the sign and then I look back at the individual, and I'm thinking to myself, show us a better way. Roll them sleeves up and show us what you can do. Your wife is out here parked in the fire lane, probably. Show us, big boy, what you can do. Get back there and make it work quicker. You know what I mean? But this could be where I've worked in fast food before. I don't know. So, chatty people in the morning before I've had coffee. God, I love my wife, but she's not a coffee drinker. She could care less. She just gets up in the morning. Sometimes she's like, sometimes you just don't want to get out of the bed. You're comfortable. Other times she's ready to have a bunch of conversations. And I'm like, honey, we got to slow our roll here for a second. My coffee is still brewing. I don't even know what's going on right now. I I'm liable to agree to something that I don't even remember agreeing to, or implicate myself in something that I shouldn't have done. I don't know what's going on. Can I please have coffee first? Um, and restaurant nose blowers. Why? That's my wife's biggest pet peeve, by the way. Why? Uh, nobody wants to see you blow the phlegm freaking out of your nose while they're eating in a restaurant. If you're one of these people, please stop doing it. Walk your sorry tail to the restroom and do it in there. I don't understand. People who block an entire aisle in a store. This happens so much in Walmart, and I don't understand how. In Walmart, the aisles are wider than my office right here. Easily get 2 carts back and forth, but some people, they've got to park their cart sideways, and they've got to stand there all stoic looking at the pinto beans like they're solving world hunger or something. It's like, are you doing it for attention? What is going on here? And I've gotten dirty looks before because I'll reach over, take the buggy and line it up straight so I can get by, or so my wife can get by. Nobody has time to sit here and watch you do your thing. You're not that interested. Speakerphone conversations out in public. Here's another good one. Now, when I say out in public, I'm not talking about the park. Things are going on there. I'm talking about you're in a doctor's office and it's really quiet and everybody's sitting there reading magazines or playing games or whatever. Like, oh God, I don't want to see the doctor. And you always have that one person and they got it on speaker and they got it turned all the way up and they're talking about warts on somebody's rear end. And you're just like, no one cares. No one cares. Turn speakerphone off and have this conversation to yourself with the individual you're talking to. Why do we have to be involved in all this, right? Chit chatting. I don't know what else to call it. Chit chatting at the checkout when there's a huge line. I don't have a problem with chit chatting. This is a smaller town. It's technically a city, but it's a smaller town. If I'm gonna call a spade here, son, it's a small place. People know what's going on with other people. And so you're going to have chit chatting. You're going to have all that stuff. I get it. But to stand there and talk to the cashier and chit chat and put them in an uncomfortable position, and sometimes the cashiers are guilty of it. And I'm just like, there are 50 people waiting in line here. Do we really need to talk about, Aunt Betsy right now and what she's doing and what she's been watching on TV? And her blood sugar levels. Do we really need to have this conversation right here, right now? Can y'all not text back and forth or call back and forth without speakerphone on and have this conversation? Leaving fast food trash on the table when you leave a fast food restaurant. Who are you? Warren Buffett? I'm serious here. These people in the fast food industry, son, they don't get paid to pick up your trash. You are not taking your date out to a 5-star restaurant when you take them to McDonald's. It's two different concepts entirely. Pick your freaking trash up and throw it away. They're literally dumpsters in the store for this reason. I don't know. It's up there with opening a new bag of chips and there's like, it's only a third full. These serial texters. Let me explain. We know two, Miss Nation and I know two people that do this. And if they weren't both with somebody already, we would actually try and fix them up because they're perfect for one another. Usually, when I have something to say in a text message, I'll type it out. It'll be 3 or 4 lines and I'll send it. I'm talking about people who type 3 or 4 words at a time, but you've got 15 messages incoming. You can't put it all in one text message. We got to do this 3 words at a time, like we're playing a game show. These people are out there, I'm telling you. Always complaining, never offering solutions. I know a few people. This is what's wrong. Ah, man, this sucks. My life. These people are like, they suck the life out of you because you'll even introduce solutions. Hey, have you thought about doing this? Have you thought about making these changes in your life? No, they're not going to make changes because then they would have nothing to complain about. The people, and this could probably go in with the chit-chatting a little bit, especially in a small town. People who fish for information. Most of my wife's friends, God love them, they think I'm the most hateful person. I got a resting bee face, is what she tells me, because I look mean and I'm not a social butterfly when we're out in public. I mean, if we're talking to somebody that we know fairly well and we talk all the time, that's different. We're sitting here over here having a conversation or something like that. But people who fish for information. You haven't seen this person in a year. Hey, how you been? And then you got to do the obligatory, I'm good, how are you? What you doing now? Well, I don't want to sit here and have a 30-minute conversation with somebody I'm not going to see for another year. And if I say, I'm podcasting, I haven't been writing, this leads to 1,000 different questions. So I always give short answers. Oh, what are you doing these days? I'm killing it. How about you? I offer nothing in return, no information whatsoever. These people walk away more clueless about me and what's going on with me than they did when we ran into each other. It's just how I deal with it. And finally, and I'm guilty of this one time, and I'll explain to you why. People who park at a gas pump and then they go into the store and shop. They they go in and they shop. So guilty of it once. We were at a Sheets up in Whitfield, Virginia. They got a Sheets right there on the corner of the interstate. And it was pretty busy and everything, but just got gas. And I was going in to pay with cash. I never use a card. Sometimes we'll use a card inside, but I never use them at the pumps because sometimes they will hold an additional amount out for a little while and then put it back in, or they like to play games with your money. So I always go in, right? So I'm going in to pay with cash. A car had pulled up behind me, and I could hear this dude on the phone telling somebody how slow I was pumping gas. Like, this guy needs to hurry, this MFer needs to hurry up, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, we'll play this game, son. So I filled it up with gas, put the pump up, and then I went in Sheets and I ordered some food. And I sat down and I ate the food, son. And for like 30 minutes after I pumped gas, I mean, the car eventually left, but I'm like, no, I'm just gonna leave it parked. The lessons need to be learned here. So yeah, I am guilty of it at one time. And finally, getting back to YouTube, and thank you if you're still here listening to the rant, by the way. But this also applies to other things. So, gatekeeping. If you're not familiar with gatekeeping, it's kind of hard to explain. I experienced it when I first got into the world of writing. Okay. And I'll make the transition over to YouTube because it's actually worse. So, when I got into the world of writing, a lot of times it's about who you know, who you smooze, right? Rub elbows with, who you talk up and blow sunshine up their rear ends and stuff. In many cases, this is how you get ahead in the world of writing. Um, to lock down a lit agent, somebody who is going to try and sell your book for you to a publisher, most people just send in manuscripts. And usually they won't let you email them in. They want to know you're serious. So you have to print them and everything, put them in a folder and mail them out, right? So you're mailing 40 or 50 at a time. What a lot of people will do because they want to skip the process is they will mail this lit agent flowers, or they will mail big baskets with cheese wheels, and I mean they go all out, right? And they do this in hopes of getting invited to writing conferences and where everybody's telling everybody. It's like one of these pompous parties with a bunch of pricks, if I'm being honest. These are the gatekeepers in the writing world, or they think they are, because eventually I figured out I can do all this stuff myself. I don't need a lit agent. While they're at a writing retreat, eating buffet food and telling each other how wonderful they are, I can sit down and write, and I can outpace them in this way, and it worked. But getting into YouTube, when I first got into YouTube, because the channel took off and I didn't really know what to expect. As y'all can see, I still struggle with the tech every morning, especially on the main channel. But I'm getting better at it. But I didn't really know what to think or what to expect. And what I quickly found out is a lot of the larger, more established channels are gatekeepers in the prepping community. Like they've been doing it 12 years, 15 years on YouTube, right? And they're very territorial. And they want the same thing as these vampires wanted in the writing world. If you smooze them and you blow smoke up their rear end and you tell them how great they are, oh my God, your channel is so good. I hope to be like your channel one day. I just want to be a little fraction of what you are. Sometimes if you smooze them hard enough, they'll offer that hand down and they'll say, come on up with me. I'll be the Lone Ranger. You can be Tonto. Now, I'm not throwing names out. Y'all can figure it out. You can look at the Lone Rangers and the Tontos, if you watch enough videos in the prepping community, and you can see a lot of the gatekeeping, going on. And sometimes channels will butt heads. I know sometimes bigger channels have clashed and they've had feuds or whatever. And a lot of times it's because they're both so pompous that they both consider themselves better than the other channel. And what I discovered with YouTube, and because I was miserable. Once I figured this out, I was miserable. I'm like, I'm not going to do this. I used to do all kinds of panels with these bigger channels. And now this is back in, I don't even know, back at the beginning of the pandemic, probably around the last presidential election. I was doing panels everywhere. And the problem I have is I'm not a smoozer. I would have done that in the writing community if that's who I was, but I'm just not going to do it. I'm not a team player in that way, right? I'm not going to scratch your back and tell you how great your channel is in hopes that you can plug me and I can gain additional subs. So I kind of went rogue. And I don't know how many people realize that um, over on the main channel, but there's a reason. And you'll hear other creators. They usually won't say my name. Occasionally they will. Usually they won't, but they'll say, yeah, there's some channels that none of the big channels want anything to do with, right? But what they won't tell you is it's because it was my decision. I told them to go fly kites. I've done this with the larger companies that because these bigger creators, they will go and they will smooth these bigger companies like Olight, Nutrient Survival. Hey, I want to be part of the wolf pack. I don't want to be part of the wolf pack. I don't want to be selling Olights and flashlights and things. I just want to do my own thing, right? For me, YouTube is a creative process, and that's what I enjoy about it. And it does not make me very popular within the prepping community, especially amongst the larger channels. But it is what it is. This is the path that I chose. Rather than going down the gravel road and hanging on to somebody's diaper and please take me all the way to the top, I just grabbed a machete and went off on my own and started doing my own thing. So, yeah, that's Prepper Nation at a glance, and that's what I've seen here at a glance without being very, very specific. But if you're one of these internet sleuths, you can go back and you can watch the older panels with the bigger creators, find out who I was paneling with, and find out who is no longer showing up in chats and things, and you'll figure it out pretty quick. Who got told to fly kites and who didn't. But anyway, folks, thank you for being here for Retro Rants. Oh, I got to do something here in case you missed it this morning.
Woo! 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 Woo!